Good morning, hello. Good morning, can you hear me? Oh yes, I can hear myself now. Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Future TV Advertising Global. Thank you ever so much for getting here early as well. It helps us get things kick-started in time. So look, I hope you are all energized, ready and raring to go. We've got an amazing 2 days for you, which we're going to take you through. Now, the important stuff, please download the app. So that's where you'll find the agenda, all the speakers. You can communicate with your fellow delegates here, all 1,100 of you that will be turning up over the next 2 days. And of course, the Wi-Fi. Everyone wants to get on the Wi-Fi, so make sure you're connected. We've got a jam-packed agenda. Here is Hall 1. Hall 2 is across the way. Again, download the app and you'll be able to find all that information. I won't run through all of this with you. I'm sure you've got your day planned out already. I am Stephen Scaffardi. It would have helped if I'd said that at the very beginning. I am the Managing Director of Events and Publishing for the Ad Wanted Group. This is our flagship event that we put on every year. The biggest event in TV advertising now. Has grown phenomenally. This is my 5th one, but we've been going for well over 10 years with versions in Canada, in Australia, and also the home to the Connected TV World Summit, the future of media, the future of brands, future of audio, and next year we will be launching an event called the Future of Entertainment, so please look out for that. I'm told by many people that attend, and Justin Levin himself, that the industry feel that it's not quite Christmas until you come to the Future of TV Advertising. So apart from me breaking into a rendition of Mariah Carey, I will wish you a very Merry Christmas, and I'm glad that we can kickstart the festivities. As I mentioned, 1,100 attendees over the course of 2 days. 1,100 is a number that we used to lie about and say that 1,100 turned up, but it's now true, with attendees from across the globe. This particular event brings around 50% of people from outside of the UK. And what we are delighted about, the reason that we have so many people from all over the world and such a diverse opinion set that you'll see over the 2 days, is people that say perhaps that the topic isn't relevant anymore, that we don't want to come together and talk about the challenges and the changes and all the risks. I think this proves that that is not the case. This event was set up to make sure that those conversations are facilitated. And it's really important that we bring both the buyers and the sellers together to make that happen. And over the course of you being here, you'll bump into a number of different people from right across the ecosystem, from agencies, from advertisers, to the broadcasters, and obviously the tech companies as well. And it's really important to us to make sure that we put that event on to help the industry move that along. And we truly believe in the power of TV, and you will obviously see that over the next couple of days. A couple of things to mention as well. Immediately after this session, there is a private session. There's 2 private sessions today in the Pancras room. Now, anyone that's in those sessions, you would have been invited. It will be on your badge. You would have registered beforehand. So the Netflix one will take place after this. So it's at 11, but if this runs over, don't worry. You don't have to rush out. It won't start until we've finished in here. And then there is one later on at 3 o'clock around addressable TV in the same room. So it's just by the reception area. If you're not sure, can't find it, ask someone on reception or someone from the team, and they'll be able to help you. Now, it's not just today where we've got a series of amazing events. We've got some drinks later on with our partners, Imagine Communications, but we know that a lot of you do like to stay around and have a drink, but if you do, don't let the hangover deter you from turning up tomorrow. As you can see right now on screen, we've got some brilliant speakers coming tomorrow, so you will not want to miss out on that at all. And last but certainly not least, we could not put these events on without our partners. I say this at every event, and I'm sure anyone that's seen this will probably get bored of me saying this, but it's true. I can't name, unfortunately, all of the partners. There's well over 90 partners that help us put this event on, and they genuinely do help us put it on. It's their insight, it's their input, it's their knowledge that helps the content team here really understand this market and make sure that we're putting on the very best event in this particular market. That's enough from me. Thank you again for attending. We're now going to kick off with session 1. Please give a warm welcome to the stage to start us off, Richard Broughton.
Thank you. Cheers. Good morning, everyone. I seem to begin a lot of presentations lately talking about how badly 2023 has gone for different segments of the media industry. But today I'm quite excited to be talking, at least in the first part of this, about the high-growth subscription streaming business. Now, of course, this year actually hasn't been very good for the streaming market. Subscriber additions have plummeted, and the industry's really slowed down compared to the heights of the pandemic years. So the chart I've got up on screen now is an illustration of that. It's showing the global number of subscription streaming customers worldwide. So we hit about 1.7 billion customers at the end of 2023. And it's showing in pink the number of net new streaming subscribers added to the market. What was the tally that was added during the year? So how many new Netflix, Disney, Amazon, Max, Paramount, etc. customers were added to the total? Now, at the height of the market, when we were all locked down, about 300 million new streaming subscribers added worldwide every year. And over the last couple of years, 2021, 2022, 200 million. So huge volume of new customers flowing in. The 2023's collapsed. We're looking at adding, by the end of this year, fewer than 100 million customers to the market, which is a far cry from the totals that we've seen over the last few years. So this is a problem not just for subscription streamers, but for large chunks of the media market. Why is that? Well, it's largely because subscription streaming services have been the engine of growth. If you're a producer, if you're a distributor, if you're a rights owner, these were the companies that were propelling your growth. And to put that in context, if we take the sheer scale of the industry and how much it's grown by, the whole TV industry, and how much it's grown by over the last 5 years, it's expanded by about $60 billion. We're probably not too far off, about $500 billion industry now. And the share of that growth that subscription streaming has accounted for is massive. It's actually 130% of that number, so it's about $80 billion in growth. And that's more than offset the declines in the paid television market and the commercial broadcasting market. But that's now beginning to slow. So that's a real problem if you're a supplier to the TV industry. Now, of course, if you're a broadcaster, you may be looking at this and breathing a slight sigh of relief and thinking, thank God that's over. But of course, subscription streaming services, and the reason I'm here talking about them at the beginning of this presentation, have now begun to diversify in terms of their revenue streams, and that's potentially bad news if you're a broadcaster, because the way most of them have begun to diversify is into ad models. And ad models are important for a couple of reasons. One of those is fairly obvious, that you introduce an ad tier, people watch your stuff, you sell ads against the content they're watching, and you make more money from those existing subscribers. But the second reason, which is perhaps slightly subtler but equally important, is that they expand the addressable market to more price-sensitive customers. If we think about what's happened in the subscription streaming market over the last few years, streamers have generally just increased their prices year after year. And there are certain segments of the market now, particularly in these cash-strapped times, where there'll be consumers thinking, well, I can't really justify paying that. The introduction of an ad-supported tier allows you to target those slightly more price-sensitive customers. And that's what we've been seeing across a whole range of different streaming service providers, slightly different sign-ups to those that you'd normally expect from a subscription service. So if we take, I'm going to take a series of examples over the next few slides. And this is drawn from an enormous panel of about 3 million US internet users where we're tracking sign-up and cancellation activity. So I'm going to kick off just looking at Netflix, and then I'm going to have a look at some of the other streaming services. So one indicator that we're pushing into new groups of consumers are the demographics who are signing up to ad tiers. And this is a US illustration, but we understand it's pretty similar in Europe. And what we're looking at here is ad tier customers relative to the average Netflix sign-up. And what's pretty clear is they skew to some of those lower income brackets. So they're much more likely to be in the 20 to 40K household income bracket, about 20% more likely than the average Netflix sign-up. They're about 10% more likely to be in the 40 to 60K bracket, and they're a little less likely to be in some of those higher income brackets there. So we can see that the introduction of a new, cheaper ad-supported tier has allowed groups like Netflix to target segments of the population who might be looking at the higher priced offers and thinking, I can't really spend on that. It's not just about affordability as well, it's also about value perception. So if we take a different service, if we take, say, Disney Plus as a quick example, One of the challenges that many streamers encounter is people will sign up for their service and they'll watch some of the key content that got them to sign up. So for me, maybe I signed up to Disney+, I watched The Mandalorian, I thought, yeah, it's fine. And then I thought, well, I'm not really watching this very much, so I churn. And that, of course, happens with a lot of streaming services. People sign up to watch something and they leave. Ad tiers allow you to target some of those people who don't see the full value in your product. You're thinking, yeah, it's just about all right. Maybe I'll sign up if it was cheaper, but it's not. And we can see that quite clearly in the chart here. So this is just showing the share of customers on two of the Disney tiers, the ad-free tier, the premium tier on the left-hand side, and the ad tier on the right-hand side, and the share of those customers who were previously Disney Plus subscribers churned and have come back. And we can see quite clearly that those people who are signing up for the premium tier are those people who, taking Disney for the first time typically. Just 18% of them were resubscribers. Whereas the exact opposite for those ad tier customers, these are people who know what they're going to get from Disney. They've churned, maybe their value perception's a little bit different from the average consumer. 76% of them are resubscribers. The problem, of course, with targeting value-conscious consumers is it's harder to keep them. So this is one thing that service providers need to grapple with their ad tiers, that they're going to be slightly higher churn. And we can see this taking an example from another streaming service if we look at Max or HBO Max in the US. And what we've done here is we've taken a cohort of consumers who signed up for Max in the first half of 2023, and we looked at how long do they stick around for. And we see on the left-hand side, in the same sort of order as the Disney slide, those consumers who signed up for the premium, the ad-free tier, and how many of them left after 3 months. And that was just 7% of them left after 3 months. That's pretty good performance, actually. That's in line with the sort of industry best practice. But on the right-hand side, of course, you've got the ad tier, and they're a little bit more value conscious. They've maybe signed up because they're a little bit more cash-strapped, or they've got a different value perception to your average Max customer. And about 26% of them churned after 3 months. So 3-4 times more likely to churn than your premium customers. Now, this, of course, isn't to say that ad tiers are bad, far from it. They allow you to reach new groups of consumers that maybe you couldn't reach through your premium tiers. But it is something for streamers to have to bear in mind. They're going to be harder to keep many of these customers. It can also be potentially a little bit harder to get them on board in the first place. You need to have the right structures, you need to have the right incentives in place to make sure that people actually sign up for the ad tier in the first place. And Netflix's change in strategy this year gives a perfect illustration of how you overcome some of the pricing changes and difficulties around incentivizing people to push towards the ad tier. So the chart we got here is basically looking at Netflix signups by month through January through September and which tier they took. And going down from the top, we've got the standard with ads tier in yellow. We've got the premium, the most expensive tier, weighing in at about $20 in the US now, the standard tier about just over $15, and the basic tier, which up until recently was about $9.99. So the problem Netflix faced was that the ad tier, when it was introduced, about $6.99, the basic tier, $9.99. So for consumers who were on the cusp and thinking, well, do I want the $6.99 tier or the $9.99 tier? A lot of them thought, well, you know what, I'll just pay the extra few dollars and I'll get the basic tier without advertising. So the share of subscribers who were signing up to the standard with ads tier was actually quite small. It was somewhere between 12, 15, maybe pushing at 18% in a good month. So of course what Netflix did is it changed its pricing structure. It phased out the basic tier for new subscribers. And it had quite a dramatic effect on the sign-up activity because it pushed people, it forced them, incentivized them to pick between two options. Do I take the ad-supported tier at $6.99, but I've got to watch adverts? Or do I take the standard tier, no longer being able to access the basic tier? Do I take the standard tier at $15.49? And that, in the space of about 2-3 months, doubled the share of subscribers that were signing up to the ad tier. So it went from 12% of subs to 23% of sign-ups in a given month. So having the right pricing incentives is important for different streaming services to make the most of the ad tiers. Now, of course, these pricing incentives aren't the same across different streaming services. Every streaming service has a different offer, every streaming service has a different price point, and the incentives that you need to get people to sign up to the ad tier are going to be different. The economics are also going to be different. Now, if we take a quick illustration of this, it's an imperfect illustration, but it roughly serves to show the point. If we think about how ad tiers make money, consumers watch content, you serve ads against it, you make money from that consumer. So therefore, the more content they watch, the more money you make. And broadly speaking, the more content you have available, the more content people are able to watch, the more money you make. So services with larger catalogues support larger viewing, and they should be able to maintain a larger price differential between their premium tiers and their ad-supported tiers. And that's absolutely important because if we think about Netflix, again, as a quick example, let's say you're a standard tier customer and you're now thinking, well, actually $6.99 is pretty attractive for me. I'm going to downgrade to that. You, as Netflix or another streamer, would want to make sure that if people downgrade, you're not inadvertently cannibalizing your revenue. So you need to have sufficient viewing to support ad dollars that mean, at the end of the day, for you, it doesn't matter which tier someone picks. If they pick the basic tier, yeah, they pay less in subscriptions, but they make that up in ad revenue. And that's what, roughly speaking, we find, that services are pricing in accordance with the volume of viewing that they can sustain and the ad revenue they can generate from each subscriber. Now, I've talked a lot about subscription streaming services, but it's worth noting that subscription streaming services they have limited reach. If we take the 1.5 billion connected homes worldwide, so people who have a home broadband or mobile connection, only about half of those by the end of next year will actually have a subscription streaming service. So the remaining half of that 1.5 billion are going to be entirely reliant on free services, and those free services, with the exception of a few public service broadcaster-funded products, are primarily going to be ad-supported. So we've got half the market, or half the opportunity, is purely about free ad-supported streaming in the connected world. And that's why over the last few years, when we've seen the subscription streaming rates dip, we've seen ad-supported streaming rates climb. And this is talking about free ad-supported streaming. So the chart here is just looking at growth in monthly active users of different streaming products in Western Europe and North America, and we've bucketed those into what we consider pure play AVOD services. So those would be your Pluto TVs, your Tubis, your Samsung TV Pluses, and those, and Rokus, for instance. You've got your BVOD services in the middle, and we'll come back to those in a minute, but that would be your ITVXs or the MyTF1s and similar, and your subscription video on demand services on the right, so your Netflixes, Amazons, Disneys, etc. The AVOD platforms have been growing much more rapidly, so we've seen about a 36% growth in monthly active users over the last 2 years alone. Broadcaster-led video on-demand services have grown by about 14%, and the opportunity from a monthly active user perspective for subscription streaming has grown by about 5%, so we can really see the discrepancy between pure ad-supported services, those consumers who are within that bracket, they're connected, they want to watch video online, but they don't have a paid product. And that's going hand in hand with demand for content from these services. A few years ago, if I put one of these charts up, we'd have seen the subscription services dominating in terms of the size of catalogues, the amount of content that's available on their products. But the market's shifted quite rapidly. This is a US indication. I'll come onto Europe in a minute. But it's illustrating the sheer scale of some of the free ad-supported streaming services in the US from a catalogue perspective. So in pink, we've got the ad-supported products. In blue, we've got the subscription streamers. And it's just looking at thousands of titles in their libraries. If we put Tubi to one side, because it's just got an absolutely enormous catalogue, but even the likes of Plex, Roku, Freevee, we're looking at 17,000, 20,000 titles in their libraries. And that's more than Amazon, it's more than Netflix, it's more than Hulu, it's more than Max and Peacock. And of course, having these large libraries is absolutely crucial if we think about, again, going back to that point around viewing earlier. The larger catalogues support more viewing supports more ad dollars. So it's crucial that these services have been investing extensively in large catalogues. There are, of course, some key differences. When I talk about pure play AVOD services, they are much more successful, much more impactful in the US. They're still nascent in Europe. So we can see that highlighted on this chart here. This is just looking at the monthly active users of different categories of services between the US on the left, Europe on the right. And the three categories we've got on the left, social video services, so your YouTubes, Facebooks, Twitches, you name it. About 90% of internet users use one of those on a monthly basis. Subscription streaming services obviously highly penetrated, about 80% of consumers. And ad-supported services have grown to nearly 36% of users over the last few years. But on the right-hand side, we've got another category of product in Europe, and that's the broadcaster-led video-on-demand products. So your ITVXs, I was going to say all fours, but Channel 4s now, reaching about 50% of consumers on a monthly active basis. And that's well ahead of where some of those pure-play AVOD services are. So what does all of this add up to? We're seeing, obviously, some growth in hybrid tiers. We're seeing growth in the pure-play ad-supported market. By our estimations, this is likely to drive a doubling in the scale of the streaming long-form video ad market over the next 5 years. So this is purely those streamers that I've talked about so far, excluding sort of social video content, going from about $21 billion all the way up to $42 billion over the next few years. So that's not going to be far off about a quarter of the global streaming market in the next 4 to 5 years. Somewhat coincidentally, that is also about the same share that marketers are going to have to divert from their overall TV budgets into streaming products. If we think about where we are at the moment, marketers are on average spending about 14% of their long-form brand TV budgets on streaming. The growth in the industry is going to mean that that's going to increase to probably a bit more than 24% by 2028. So significant shifts in the industry. We've seen a slowdown in the subscription streaming market growth this year, and that's incentivized a big push towards ad-supported tiers. Of course, deploying ad-supported tiers is not straightforward, and we've seen a whole range of different ways that they function and the considerations that different streaming services need to put in place when they're deploying them. And it's, of course, not just about the pure play hybrid services. We're also looking at the growth of AVOD and BVOD services propelling the market for those 50% of homes that don't currently have access to a subscription streaming product. So it's a pretty healthy outlook for the ad-supported world. So if we think about the last few years as being the growth of the subscription streaming market, the next few years are very much about the growth of the ad-supported streaming market. Thank you very much.